As Unitarian Universalists, we believe truth is larger than any one book or way. Religion and science go hand in hand. Integrity requires freedom of conscience. Diversity is something to celebrate. In the struggle for justice, we come alive. Our highest aspiration and calling is love. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever path you are on, you are welcome here. We light this flame to ignite the sacred power of justice. We light this flame so that it may be a beacon of hope. In moments of uncertainty, fear, anxiety, and the unknown, we light this flame and are emboldened by its blaze. Knowing our strength as a prophetic and powerful people is rooted in the diverse ways we answer the call to love. Good morning. And once again, welcome to West Shore Unitarian Universalist Church. We are so glad that you are here, and so glad about the folks joining us from home. Welcome to you also. We have so much great stuff going on here. Check out the West Shore Weekly in your order of service about events coming up and how you can get involved. Now, if you are here for the first or second time and don't mind people knowing that, would you raise your hand? Okay, well, great. While children and youth are dismissed to their classes, let us now greet each other warmly. The greeting time will end with the sounding of the bell.
Hi, West Shore. I'm Diane Alcorn, and I am your Membership and Engagement Coordinator, and I'm coming to you on film to let you know that films are a great way to provide people with information about social justice issues, but they also provide a new and compelling reason to come to West Shore, opening the door to conversations and new friendships, as well as new members. When West Shore first started showing films, they were planned to be a source of information for the members of our church. Initially, there was some disappointment because most of the audience were actually members of the community and not West Shore members. But we saw people reading the posters in the hall and looking at the pamphlet rack. They were asking questions about UUs, and we even saw film audience members in church on Sundays. If you happen to be one of those community members that found West Shore through our social action film series, let me just say we're so glad you're here because you share our passion for social justice issues and finding ways to solve them and do something about them. If you haven't attended one of the social action films, what are you waiting for? The films are free and they offer the opportunity for great conversations on a wide variety of social justice issues. You can check the weekly e-news as well as our Facebook page for different upcoming films, and we hope to see you at the West Shore Movies. Thank you.
Wasn't that a lovely message from Diane Alcorn? And I hope you'll take her up on her invitation to join us at the films. By the way, Diane made that recording because she's home recuperating from hip surgery, and I hear she's doing well, so that's good news. Your generosity makes the film series possible because we can use this beautiful sanctuary to show our films. Your generosity makes possible the justice work that West Shore Church is known for in the community. Your generosity makes West Shore possible. The offering will now be given and gratefully received. Good morning. I'm Gloria Beamer, and I'm so happy to be here this morning. Let me tell you a little bit about how our West Shore Social Action Film Series began. In 2009, my husband Bob and I had been members of West Shore for a couple years, and we were active in the Social Action Committee. Another new member, Cheryl Cross, asked us if we'd have any interest in showing a film about water privatization issues in Detroit, and the film was called The Waterfront. We said, Sounded interesting. What the heck? It's only one Saturday night. We'll show the film. So we contacted the filmmaker, and he agreed to let us show the film. And later, he said he wanted to come to our screening. So he drove here from Detroit. He brought his mom because she had never seen her son's movie. And when they got here, we took them out to dinner. And when we came back to church, I was disappointed because there were like 20, 25 people here. But at the end of the evening, the filmmaker was so excited because there were 25 people here, and he got to talk about issues about water that he was really important to him. So that was the first Saturday that we showed a film, and now 127 films later, 127 Saturday nights later, the film series continues. So before I go on, thank you. Before I go on, I want to recognize someone who has done so much to make the film series possible all these years. He creates all the flyers, he prepares and sends out press releases, he does the tech part of showing the film and making sure that the microphones work for the conversation afterward. And he's doing sound today, and that's Bob Beamer. I also want to thank the members of the Justice and Outreach Council because they offer suggestions for topics for movies, sometimes specific films, and they also help find speakers for discussion after the film. This morning, 3 of them are going to share some of their thoughts about the Social Action film series. Kathy?
Good morning. I'm Kathy Little, co-coordinator with Kelly Pincus of the Queer and Allies Task Force here at West Shore. I'd like to share how a variety of LGBTQ+ themed documentaries have been an integral part of the Social Action film series since it was started in 2009 by Gloria and Bob Beamer. As a volunteer at the Cleveland International Film Festival for over 15 years, the last 3 years as a reviewer of films submitted for consideration, I've been able to suggest some awesome LGBTQ+ themed films to Gloria. Since the inception of the Social Action film series, 9 LGBTQ themed films have been shown addressing a variety of issues, including the AIDS epidemic, gay marriage and families, drag queens and kings, transgender children, and gay athletes. All of these films were excellent, but I especially loved Mama Bears, which was shown in November of 2022. Mama Bears is about evangelical Christian mothers across the country who have LGBTQ+ children who banded together to support the LGBTQ+ community. Despite their Christian beliefs, they travel across the country attending pride events where they offer free hugs to those who need it, and also offer to serve as surrogate parents at gay weddings for those estranged from their families due to their sexuality and/or gender identity. I was especially moved by the response of those estranged from their families. They were so appreciative of the love and acceptance shown to them by these mama bears. Oops. 2 additional films are scheduled this spring. In May, the film 1946, The Mistranslation That Shifted Culture, will be shown. This is an eye-opening film about how biblical researchers have found that the word homosexuals was inaccurately translated from the Greek and inserted into the New Testament in 1946. This error led to the biblical basis for homophobia, which continues to this day. By the way, this film was shown last year at the film festival, Cleveland International Film Festival, and won the top award. So it's really highly recommended. In June, another important film, Cured, will be shown. This film is about how LGBTQ+ activists, some of whom were psychiatrists, successfully campaigned the American Psychiatric Association to remove homosexuality from its Manual of Mental Illnesses in 1973. Finally, I want to thank Gloria and Bob for their tireless work in starting and maintaining the Social Action film series since 2009. You may not be aware that most of these films have a price tag to view, some quite hefty. Gloria has been able to negotiate with the filmmakers to allow their use at West Shore for either a significantly reduced price or in some cases for free. Gloria. The Social Action Film Series is a unique program at West Shore that we need to continue to support. So come to the movies.
Good morning. My name is Linda New, and I will confess that I am a relentless environmentalist. This passion is not new. Guarding natural spaces has been as normal for me as breathing. Looking back, I realize that I have more vivid memories of spending time in the creek at the end of my street where I grew up than in my own backyard. The woods were a refuge and a place for adventure. I cherished the streams and wild areas near my childhood home, and I have worked to preserve places like this for most of my life. So, when Gloria, Bob, and the Social Action Committee began showing movies about environmental threats, and when they later invited West Shore faith communities together for a sustainable future, or FACT, to co-sponsor some of these movies, I was all in. As time went on, it became clear that the movies that we selected were not only about threats to nature, they were also about problems that endangered the health of our communities and the safety of our families. Bob and Gloria have now been screening movies monthly for more than 14 years, and everything about the Social Action films reflects a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, honoring the interconnected web of life, respecting the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and accountably dismantling racism and other oppressions. These second Saturday evenings have created a space for justice and outreach groups at West Shore to spotlight systemic inequities. And through open discussion, they have offered a path away from discrimination and complacency. So why movies? What is it about these movies that bring people to a common understanding and a safe starting point for conversation? I think the Social Action movie nights have been successful because all of the films are chosen carefully by the Social Action Committee and others. Each film is meant to be impactful, relevant, and inspiring. So I want to talk about 3 separate movies. The first one is Gasland. When we showed Gasland in 2011, director, producer, and activist Josh Fox came to the screening and led the conversation after the movie. This sanctuary was packed. By working with Food and Water Watch to publicize and coordinate the event, we were able to lift the whole community up and bring everyone into the conversation about the devastating effects of fracking on our air, our water, our health, and the natural interconnected systems that we live in. Josh Fox listened to our comments, he talked with us, he pointed out actions that we could take to stand up and fight this destructive industry. His movie and his conversation reached a wide audience here, and it was hugely impactful. So then in 2009, Addicted to Plastic took us across 5 continents, showing everyone what really happens to all of those convenient disposable plastic cups and those single-use plastic bags that we find everywhere. Addicted to Plastic followed the production and promotion of plastic from oil wells all the way to the shores of Lake Erie, where trash and debris accumulate on our beaches and in our drinking water. This movie's immediate relevance and crucial message was undeniable. We've seen the ill effects of plastic pollution in our water and soil, in our communities, and in our bodies. Most importantly, Addicted to Plastic highlighted the entrepreneurs who work to generate alternatives to plastics and who look for creative, doable solutions to what can seem like an insurmountable problem. This month, the next movie, the movie that I want to talk about next we showed just this month. We collaborated with Single Payer Action Network, or SPAN, to bring the film Fix It, Healthcare at the Tipping Point, to our second Saturday movie series. Bob Parker and Kathy Caraway led an amazing post-movie conversation with an audience that represented an impressive diversity of viewpoints. We had candidates for government officials, along with elected officials, medical professionals, union workers, and many who were interested in supporting small businesses. There were people in the audience who saw the need for universal health care, and people who didn't agree with the value of health care as a human right. And amazingly, we all shared a cordial and constructive conversation. Participants had time to explain their views and to gather information with a promise of action and change that we can all benefit from. The February 2024 movie was very inspiring. So West Shore's social action film series have brought many of us powerful discussions. It continues to provide opportunities to connect with neighbors and the larger community and to actively address some of the social issues that we see and that we all hope to fix. Thanks.
Good morning. My name is Joan Clark. My primary means of living out my belief in the UU principles has been my active commitment to addressing the issue of human trafficking. Human trafficking is the use of force, fraud, or coercion to compel a sex act or act of uncompensated labor. It is a violation of the UU principles of the inherent worth and dignity of individuals, of compassion toward all persons, and of addressing conditions of oppression. I have met and talked with victims of human trafficking ages 12 to 54, both men and women, and I have done dozens of presentations to audiences. The film series has helped to amplify this knowledge and to develop support for victims by reaching a wider audience and engaging volunteers. And I have learned so much myself. I will never forget the film in which a trafficker was interviewed and coldly laid out the profile he used to target his victims. He said his process was to follow teen and preteen girls in the mall and identify the ones that looked like they were outsiders among the pack, the ones no one was paying attention to. Then he would casually approach the girl and compliment her. "Your hair is gorgeous. Your eyes are beautiful." Then he said, with ice-cold eyes and an even but menacing voice, "If she ignored me, I would let her go. But if she became embarrassed or shy and waited for more compliments, I knew she was mine." I will never forget the documentary about labor trafficking on an Ohio egg farm when I realized that I had been buying those very eggs at a local and nearby grocery. The film followed men and children from Central America, deliberately targeted, and the children literally purchased from their families with promises of wealth and work in America. It showed film of these refugees running to climb on the infamous train El Bestia for a free ride to slavery. It showed the inhuman and inhumane conditions in trailers on filthy and dangerous chicken ranches. The owners and the managers were interviewed, and they knew and had planned exactly what was going on. I have appreciated so much the opportunity to invite speakers to bring the film message home and to give us the opportunity to honor the brave victims who shared their personal trauma and hopes with us. These included a grown man who turned his story of childhood sexual abuse into a comedy routine. Imagine that. As a sexually abused child, he learned to make sarcastic, sardonic, and very dark jokes about his situation. I laughed with him, and the audience laughed with him. And I learned the power of resilience in the face of trauma. We invited a former prostitute who had been trafficked and has now become a successful activist for legislation. I have a very recent, about a month old, picture of her standing next to our governor. She helped, in her past, to initiate a local Prostitutes Anonymous group. Again, the power of resilience in the face of trauma. We also invited a former victim of slave labor, held captive and addicted by her own family member, which is an all too common condition in human trafficking. She has now built an organization of her own to help other victims become survivors. Over and over through these films and these speakers, I have learned the power of resilience to survive trauma and to motivate and drive the work of helping others. The film series has been part of a seamless path from introduction to a heavy and painful subject to a better understanding of its impact locally, to recognizing and supporting the hope of change in real human experience. In this way, the film series is another step in the path of realizing, making real our UU principles.
I want to thank Linda, Kathy, and Joan for your stories. I also want to thank Jerry Devis for putting together this beautiful display. And I want to thank Ria Terranova Webb for helping us coordinate all our stories. And Christine for making sure the slides all come up at the right time, and Bob for doing the sound. So I want to bring things to a conclusion with a couple stories of my own. One of the most interesting aspects of the film series, at least from my perspective, is that you get to meet and engage with the creators of films, or the personalities from the films, or people who are just passionate and knowledgeable about the subject of the film. If you're able to find social justice films on Netflix or other streaming services, and that's not always possible, nothing substitutes for being face-to-face with people who create the films and care so much about making the world a better place. It's an aspect of our film series that makes it utterly unique. So let me tell you about Derek. I met Derek when we showed a film called Knife Skills. Now, Knife Skills is a film about Brandon Krystowski, a chef and owner of a wonderful restaurant, Edwin's, at Shaker Square, that is completely staffed by people who are former prison inmates. We were expecting Brandon to come to West Shore to speak after the film, but at the last minute, he had to cancel, so he sent Derek. And at first, I have to say, I was disappointed because Brandon's story is so powerful. He got in some trouble with the law, but as a young white teenager, the judge gave him a second chance, and he did not send him to prison. Brandon was given a second chance that most young men of color do not get. Brandon has spent his entire life paying that back. So in Brandon's program, students learn all the areas necessary for having a successful restaurant. They learn food preparation, hospitality, serving, management. There are so many requests for graduates of his program that there's a waiting list. Some of his graduates are all over the country, all over the world, and people come to Cleveland to learn about his program so that they might be able to duplicate it in their cities. Edwin's graduates have a 95% employment rate and less than 1% recidivism. And the food is incredible. So Brandon couldn't come and speak that night, but he sent Derek. And very soon, my disappointment was gone. Derek was amazing. So Derek is the community outreach coordinator for Edwin's, and he talked about being a young black man in Cleveland, working as a nursing assistant and just not feeling like he had very many opportunities. But his life had been changed because of Brandon's program, and they were working together to help others turn their lives around. And now he saw so much hope for the future. Again, one of the unique blessings of our film series is getting to meet film creators and people in the films. And maybe the person who inspired me the most was a transgender paramedic from Chardon named Jacob. The film was called Kobe, and it was created by Jacob's brother, who's a filmmaker, and he used old family, part home movies, part new footage, and it chronicled Kobe's transition to Jacob, being misunderstood and afraid, not fitting in, the rejection by friends and family members, dealing with depression and anxiety, and going through several surgeries. This film, by the way, was shown at the Cleveland International Film Festival, but also the Cannes Film Festival in France. So Jacob came to our screening. He brought his mother, he brought his partner, and when he got to West Shore, he said he did not want to have to watch the film. It was too difficult for him to watch. So while the audience watched the film, we sat in the rotunda and talked. Did you ever meet somebody and you just felt a connection? That's how I felt with Jacob. And as we sat and talked, he said he felt he had finally been released and he could be the person he knew he was. And he was loving his life. After the film, he did a great job of answering questions. He joked, he embarrassed his mom, was very open with telling his story. And we gave him a $100 honorarium, and he said, "Oh, you didn't have to give me anything." And I said, "Just go and do something fun." I can still see Jacob and his partner going down the hall toward the parking lot door, and they looked like they were walking on air. They were young and in love and happy. As I was preparing this talk, I Googled Jacob to find a picture of him to show you, and here he is. Imagine my shock and grief when Googling him. The first thing that came up on the screen was his obituary. He died 2 years after he was at our film series, and he was only 32 years old. I cried when I read that he was gone, but it made me angry. Jacob was a young man who just wanted to be happy and live his life as a paramedic. He thought he had life figured out, but he never got a chance to live his dream. And as I thought about Jacob, I know it's even more important than ever that West Shore does everything we can to lead the way to secure transgender rights. That's the point right there. So that's the point right there. The film series isn't always about things happening on a screen, separate from your own life. The film series brings in people, and you meet these people, and you feel a connection. And if you hadn't realized it already, you gain the realization that we are all in this together. Real people are fighting for their lives. You know, it's a really special feeling when we West Shore people are somewhere in the community, marches or rallies or fundraisers, and people will say, "Oh, you're from that church that shows justice movies." Yes, yes we are. And I hope you will come and join us. Thank you. In the order of service, it said that there'll be a sermon chat at noon. We're going to meet in here at 11:30. If you want to join us, you're more than welcome. Thank you.
Or the fire of commitment. These we carry with us until we meet again. As we prepare to depart, we give voice to these hopes. May we know ourselves bound in community even while we are apart. May a passion for justice burn in our lives. May we carry the light of compassion in our hearts and in our every interaction. May we be whole in our devotion to truth and always carry the lamp of peace before us.